Welcome to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gan, the podcast where entrepreneurs, business leaders, and HR professionals share tips, strategies, and trends in their area of expertise. They also talk about their successes and struggles along their career and business journey. If you love to learn through storytelling and find people fascinating, join us. Hilda Gan, welcome to Rev Up Your Potential. I'm excited to kick off season 4 of Rev Up Your Potential. Each week we feature entrepreneurs, business leaders, and HR professionals to share their successes and struggles in their journey. In season 4, we've asked our guests now to share tips and strategies or trends in their areas of expertise. Jackie, who's here with me today, has appeared twice on my show. Last, she was on season 4, where she talked about shifting from lone wolf to CEO. She's an amazing and impressive businesswoman and an advocate for creating independent wealth. I've invited her to actually be the host on this episode. I want you to get to know me a little bit better. But let me tell you about Jackie. She's an award-winning certified financial planner and a financial advisor in Canada. Her practice focuses on cash flow management and tax planning strategies for small to medium-sized businesses. She's a featured speaker and an advocate for numerous corporate, professional, and charitable organizations. She's also been the co-author of Single by Choice or Chance, The Smart Woman's Guide to Living Longer Better, to help single women prepare better for their financial future. She was raised by a single mom who passed away when Jackie was in her teens, and that led Jackie to learn important lessons of becoming financially independent very early in life. Today, Jackie is one of the most recognized financial partners and financial advisors in Canada. Her advice and her strategies have been featured in top financial publications such as The Agenda, The Globe and Mail, Forum, Wealth Professional Investment Executives, and she's appeared on radio and podcast shows like my season 2, and television shows such as Star, Tangerine Bank, The Agenda, CBC, Sun News, and BNN. She's an award winner of the Mackenzie Investment Award for Female Trailblazer of the Year, both in 2019 and 2021. So I couldn't think of a better person to help me kick off season 4 and have her interview me, so you get to know a little bit more about me and my Rev Up Your Potential podcast show and the Rev Up Potential principles. So I turn it over to you, Jackie, as today's host. She is my colleague, my fellow entrepreneur, and my accountability partner. So she keeps me on my toes.
Yes, we keep each other on each other's toes. First of all, I love the fact that you've turned the table in this podcast. So how does it feel to have the tables turned on you? The interviewer becomes the interviewee, Hilda.
Well, as much as I said I couldn't think of a better person to host, I also thought, yeah, she'll just say what she wants and ask what she wants. So I'm ready. I'm ready
Are you nervous? You're ready?
Positives and the challenges that you're going to bring me.
Good. I'm glad because get ready. We're in for a ride, folks. So get used to it. Let's start off because I know you, but I don't know how well your audience knows you. So let's go back a little bit. Let's take a step back. Love for you to share, a little bit more about who you are, just so that people kind of get a sense of. I always think that when people learn about who you are, where you come from, what lessons you learn a little bit more about someone's purpose. So feel free to share some of those juicy details. People would relate to.
Details. Well, yes. Thank you. And I know
Hilda,
if I missed any juicy details, you're going to say, Hilda, tell them about this. I always wanted to help people ever since I was a little kid. And when I went to high school, I took an assessment tool. And essentially, I felt I found where I wanted to be. I wanted to help people, but I had a science background. So how do you combine that? And so I decided to become a nurse. And I wasn't satisfied just to be just your average nurse. I wanted to make sure I was a really good nurse. And so during my academic year, I would actually go and work in various well, I worked at Toronto General Hospital. That was the name of it in those days. And I would just show up, and I was just a nursing student. So we were called non-registered nursing assistants. And I would show up and they'd say, okay, Hilda, go to the renal floor, go to surgery. So I would show up. I wouldn't know the patients, the 7 or 10 patients I had. I wouldn't know the nurses on the floor, and I wouldn't even know the routine on the floor. And so this really helped me build up my systems thinking, planning ahead, and really getting to know people quickly, and fitting in quickly. So I think this has really been part of my life. And if I go back to when my father passed away when I was 10 years old, and my mother, she actually shared something. She said, I feel like killing myself. And when you're a 10-year-old and you hear
Oh,
that,
wow.
what does that do? It actually shaped who I was, because all of a sudden I thought, wow, if I lose my mom, I'm going to be an orphan. And I know, Jackie, that
That's one
happened
of
to you
the
at a
things that
very
bond us,
early age.
right?
And so
Right,
it
right.
was like terrifying to know that she's the only parent, my only lifeline left. And up until the year of 10, it was idyllic, you got a family, you're loved, all that. And all of a sudden, and so it taught me, I followed her wherever she wanted to go. She wanted to play mahjong in the evening or go to a movie. So it again taught me how to really be organized quickly, because I never knew whether I'd be able to get my homework done, because she'd say, hey, let's go to a movie tonight. And I would do that. So again, I would show up at these things on weekends. I wouldn't know the people that are there, whether I've got kids that are toddlers or kids that are teenagers. So I again would learn how to fit in, to get kind of flexible and meet people. And I think that's been sort of who I am as a result of that. Those have been some of the key things in my life. And again,
Those are some crucial lessons learned. I mean, talk about resiliency, right? And that's something I think in this current economic time that we're in, people need more than ever. So just learning, as you said, to be flexible,
yeah,
learning to
yeah,
be resilient, being a quick study, which clearly you are crucial things when working with people.
yeah. And I think that's where I learned how to be so personable, right? People connect with me quickly, because I had either I would be bored out of my mind, or kind of upset because I was here, but I chose to be with my mother. So I chose to make the best of it. And I learned very quickly how to make connections with people, regardless of their age or their where I was. So I think that's
Well,
really been very helpful for me.
when you say, you learn how to work with people, not everybody loves being in the people business. And when you're, working as closely as you are in, working with doing consultant work, human resource consulting work, you have to have a real love for people, right? So tell me about those early lessons, those early days with your mom. Is that what fueled your passion for working with people?
I
Let's
think
dig into that a little.
I think I've always liked people, and I think, or maybe I just evolved into it. But I found during my the years as you become a teenager and a young adult and you get to university, is that people were my elixir. Like, everybody would go and we'd want a few drinks and we'd love to party, but I got drunk too fast. So I think I built myself up to 2 to 3 glasses an evening. I can't do
You're
that
doing
now.
better
It's
than
like a
me.
half a sip of wine and we're done here. But I found that it wasn't getting drunk that made me happy. It was the people. It was meeting people, and everybody is so different and so exciting. And I think this is why I love doing my Rev Up Potential, because I get to invite interesting people to learn about them myself, and to have people who love storytelling and love listening to learn about other people as well. So I think this is where it comes from. It's just really enjoying people, finding them fascinating, and finding a joy in helping people. And helping people isn't that, oh, they show their gratitude. It's like that pay it forward. You do something, you think it will help them, but you don't know, but you don't need to know. You just need to know that you've done something, and hopefully that has benefited that person.
Well, it sounds to me, Hilda, as you explain that, this kind of like the seeds were sown so early on with your mom were because you were afraid of losing her. you really wanted to be a service to her, make her show her that, you know what, that she had lots of reasons for living. She had you, she had, your brothers. And so to me, here it is, you've kind of transformed that passion, so just, being there for your mom, being with your mom, to that same passion for being with people and being of service to people. Again, you're in the people business. There's no way around it when you're doing the kind of work that you do. And speaking of the work that you do, I'd love to learn, because you mentioned RevUp a couple of times now. What exactly is that?
Yeah, RevUp is a concept. Maybe I need to back it up a little bit because
Yeah.
people are saying, but you're in the human resources business. How does a nurse get into the human resources business? So maybe I should just spend a couple minutes fast forwarding to why I'm here, where I am today. So in my career, I love to teach. So I became an educator. Then I thought, people said, those who can't teach, what an insult, because I think teaching is a great gift. But I thought, well, I know how to be organized because I was a very, very systematic, organized person. So I became a manager, a director of nursing. I even got involved in the IT implementation when our hospital was computerizing. And they said, Hilda, of all the directors, you are the one that I think can make this transition. So I became an IT application specialist. And I was that bridge between patient care and the IT world, and ended up managing a few large scale projects for our hospital.
Right.
And I went back for my master's. I'm juggling 3 children, a part-time master's of 2 courses a week, 2 courses a semester, and a full-time job now in the IT world. So you can imagine how busy that is when you're a project manager.
Right.
And as I'm finishing my last 2 courses, my husband says, I'm thinking of starting a company. And that was an engineering company. And I thought, geez, I can help him in doing stuff. And it was a transportation engineering company. And as we were talking about him building this company, I was there with him. And we said, wouldn't it be nice if we created a place where people loved what they did, really loved what they did, and loved where they work? And that was like, yeah, that would be so great. So the 2 of us worked together. And within a year, it was obvious that this company was growing and that I should shift over. And that's what I did. I started a small company on my own doing management, healthcare consulting,
Right.
and then worked with him part-time. But we got to a point where it didn't make sense. We were 25 people, and I said, let's put all our eggs in one basket. So we
Exactly.
prided ourselves on being a company where people loved what they did, loved where they worked. And we grew that company to 125 people, 7
Crazy.
offices across Canada. It was an amazing journey. And our journey was always, no matter how big we get, no matter how many offices, we want everybody to still feel that sense of camaraderie, that sense of belonging. And we use things like, you don't call us head office. And you don't call yourself a branch office. You are the Calgary office or the Vancouver office. If you must call us something other than the Richmond Hill office, call us the corporate office. Because, yeah, some of the corporate stuff gets done there. So this
Right.
sense of camaraderie. And we decided to say, well, let's let what other people think about us, because our staff really felt like they were in a great place. And we put our names forward for best workplaces in Canada. And we discovered on our 10th anniversary, it was an amazing year, that we were recognized as the top 10 best workplace in Canada. And we did that 2 years in a row. So, yeah, kudos to us. What we
No, I
thought we
mean, this
were.
this should be some humble bragging here, because I think there's so much that you've said when you talk about kind of like your journey from, your childhood, your mom, then, being a service in the healthcare industry. Then, you move from that to starting up this business with your husband, where you become one of the best workplaces to be. Like, Hilda, this is no small feat. So definitely no humble bragging required. Kudos to your company and kudos to that journey.
And I mean, it had its headaches and its stresses
Of
and
course.
challenges, but there was this sense of accomplishment that we all loved what we did and loved where we worked. And so we sold the business. And the whole journey, many parts of it were what you read in textbooks, right? Oh, you should create a positive, healthy work culture. Yeah. No, it's too hard. You can't change this. It's terrible.
Yes.
And we said, no, we can do this. We can make this happen. And so, having had my master's in health administration, I understand what it takes to create a great place and all these theoretical stuff. And I try to put into practice the theory. And my husband and I were rewarded by realizing you can take some of these practical models and create them into real life practice. So we decided when we were approached by people when we were 5 years old, oh, you must have all these headaches with finances and human resources and all that. We said, no, actually, we have our own learning program. We have, performance evaluations. We have our IT is great. Our controllers, done well. And so we had little headaches, but we said someday somebody's going to knock down a whack of cash and want us buy us, right? And we're going to scramble thinking, oh, do we want this? Do we want this? So we thought, no, we should be prepared. And so we hired KPMG to actually help us with our assessment. And we discovered that we found a company. After we finished it all, we said, well, don't put it on the bookshelf. Let's just take a quick look. And we discovered a company who was number one on every criteria except where they were tied for number one. So it actually made a great, it was a great decision for us. And if we'd sold 6 months later, that was during the 2002, 2008, 2009 time with the Lehman Brothers. If we had waited a half a year, we would have gotten probably 80 cents on the dollar. So we actually sold at a great time.
It's all about timing,
Well, who would have known? Who would have known? But nobody like one of our criteria is nobody loses their job. We preserve our culture. And we actually were able to bake the pie instead of get a piece of the pie, because we were the only transportation engineering firm and their only engineering firm in Canada at the time. So we actually helped to guide and mold the growth of that company in the early days. So it was a wonderful transition. And when I had worked there for 4 years, I decided that I really wasn't strategically involved anymore because it was a 7,000 person firm. I was involved in Canada, but not so much as influential as when my husband and I owned the company. So fast forward, I decided that of all the things that I love to do about corporate, because I was responsible for all those aspects of corporate, including the legal, financial expansion, leases across Canada, and the HR piece. And that included the training and policies, procedures, compliance, hiring. I decided of all those things, human resources was the thing I loved most. And people are your greatest assets. And I wanted people to understand that. So I started my own company and I thought, how do I help other companies who want people to be their greatest asset, but don't have the time or the knowledge on how to make that happen?
That's what I was going to say, Hilda, is that, it sounds good. You guys grew the company, remind me, from how many people to 7,000?
No, 7,000 is what we acquired. We grew it from 2 to 125 people ourselves.
So from 2 to 125. And, one of the greatest challenges most businesses face is around people management. Every time I talk as an advisor myself, when I talk to someone who owns a business, challenges around human resources is still the number one challenge for business owners.
When I talk to people, they say, oh, do you hire people? Like their biggest headache is people, right? Yeah, when it comes to human resources.
That's right. So what I was going to say is, it's great that you know how to do this and that you were able to implement from textbook what you know. But how does the average business person put these things into practice to have less headaches when it comes to hiring, when you've already acknowledged your human beings, your human resources, the people are the most valuable part of your business? The
managers are those key assets, because people will leave a company for 3 reasons. They're not getting challenged. There's a toxic environment and the managers are bad, right? Mm-hmm. Why would I stay? And COVID has taught us to love what you do, love where you work, because life's too short. And maybe I don't even love this industry that I'm in now anymore. So people are going to leave. So I thought, how do I articulate what we did and created this successful environment as quickly as possible? And I'm driving and I'm thinking, well, we always treated our people with respect. We looked at them as equals, and we recognized that, we valued them. So that became the recipe for REVUP: respect, equality, valued. What's the UP? What's the UP? What's
Yes,
unique
exactly.
proposition? What's the UP? And I came up with it. What we did was we sat down with people and we learned who they were and their skills. So it's uniqueness. We looked at the uniqueness of individuals. And when you look at the uniqueness of people and you tap into their potential, that helps rev up them as people. It revs up your company. It engages them. It makes them more productive because they feel that sense of belonging. So Rev Up became that recipe, or if you want to use transportation, since I'm in the business, the roadmap for success. And so I now use that word. I'm getting it trademarked and waiting for the day, because it's almost here, when I'll get that actual registered trademark. But Rev
Right.
Up is important. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to teach managers to be people focused leaders, not managers, not
Right.
people management, but people leadership skills. And so I've created a program called Rev Up Your People Leadership Skills. And what it does is it uses the Rev Up concept: treat people with respect. And that's treat people the way they want to be treated, not how you want to be treated,
That's right.
because in their culture, or in their upbringing, what you're doing that is respectful in your mind is actually insulting. And it's that's I used to think, treat people the way you want to be treated, Hilda, like nice and fair and all that. But no, you need to think about what they need as what is considered respect for them, and then look at them as equals. And when we were iTRANS, and so here's another tip,
Right.
we treated people equally. So the words were, think of your job equally important as the next person, because without a person who's doing printing, without a person who's doing budget management or project management or the VP, we wouldn't be functioning fully. We need all the key players. And it's with the World Cup just behind us now.
Right.
All those members are key. If you don't have a goalie, if you don't have forwards, if you don't have, a center,
100%.
what are you going to do when when there's a penalty and you lose one of your members? You're not functioning at optimum level. So we used words, we used actions that made people feel equal. And a good example was one of our admin assistants. She was the admin to one of the VPs. She was helping us interview somebody for an admin position, and that
Right.
person said, "So, Lori, what do you like about working here?" And Lori said, "I like the fact that I feel equally important to anybody else, including my boss." And in my brain, I'm going, yes, yes, you've got that concept down of equality. I didn't know that word equality then in REVA. I said, yes, this is what we've been striving for, to make people feel very valued and very equal.
And
So,
this is actually, now these are buzzwords that are coming around, right? Like, here you're clearly, somebody who was ahead of your time, thinking about, valuing every role in a company, which just means, I guess what I'm hearing from you is that that old structure of the hierarchy, there's people at the bottom, people at the top. We really can't take that approach. Managers, business owners who are hiring can't take that approach, because as you said, and on a team, everybody has an important role to play, and making people feel that way is really crucial, is what I'm hearing from you as well.
and I'm laughing inside because it reminds me, in the early days, we didn't have an organizational chart because we refused to show hierarchy. But then as you grow and you're submitting proposals to the government and other people, they need to see where everybody fits in. So we would put an organizational chart for our proposals, but we didn't have one in our employee handbook. So that was our sense of
Interesting.
equality.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned each of the values. Tell me the background. How did this all come together in terms of the overall recipe for a
Yeah.
business owner who's trying to figure all this roadmap out for themselves? How did this all kind of click together for you?
So the way we ran our company really was using these RevUp principles. And I remember when we were, my producer and I were talking one day. He said, "So where does RevUp come from, Hilda?" And I said, "Oh, well, my husband and I wanted to create a place where people loved what they did, loved where they were." He said, "Okay, that's fine, but where does that come from? Where
That's
does
right.
this desire to make people feel important in this way come from?" So I stepped back and I thought, "Oh, I know where that comes from." And it goes back to the little 8-year-old.
Hmm.
I grew up and we lived up in Eglinton, a Dufferin area. And so every weekend we went down to my aunt's down in Chinatown. And Chinatown in those days was at Bay and Dundas, the original Chinatown. For anybody who knows that, that's where the original Chinatown was.
I
And we
do.
went for dim sum, and we went to a place called Kwang Chao, and the hostess there was the nicest person. She would go around to the tables and she would talk to people and ask them, how they were doing. Then she made people feel welcomed in her restaurant. And then when she wasn't doing that, she'd stand at the front or at the receptionist counter, and that's where the bathroom was. And I would go to the bathroom every once in a while. And over the years, she knew who I was. She'd
Hmm.
call me by my name. She'd ask me how, maybe we were talking about school last time, how school is, or are you enjoying the holidays? She made me feel important. She made me feel valued because I wasn't the paying customer. She didn't have to be nice to me, but she was. She treated me as equal as those paying customers, my parents. And I remember that little 8-year-old girl saying, "Wow, this lady knows how to speak English really well." And I did too. But my parents' generation didn't necessarily know English as fluently as she. And I thought, she speaks English well. She's so nice to people. And she really makes me feel valued. So you can hear that respect, equality, value way back then, you know? And so I thought, she's a great role model. I want to be like her when I want grow up. I want people to feel welcomed. And I guess this is part of that Hilda who likes people and connects with people. Jean Lumb was her name. And she was
Right.
a role model for me. And I feel the swelling now coming up in my throat. And she was such a special lady. She actually ended up receiving the Order of Canada. She was the
Really?
first
Wow.
Asian woman, Chinese woman, to receive the Order of Canada. She was also the first restaurateur to receive the Order of Canada. And she was influential in helping reunite families, Chinese families, because back in those days there was a head tax, and Chinese were not allowed to come back into Canada without paying a big head tax, or to, you know, to bring their children and their spouses if that was the case. So a lot of people in my parents' time really were not born in Canada. My mother and her 7 siblings were born in Canada, as was Jean Lumb's. So Jean was really influential to me, and I'm very honored to say that she was a role model. And when I wrote it, I became an international best-selling author earlier in January last year, and she is in the book because I talk about the Rev Up Your Leadership and how people can become better leaders using this Rev Up concept. And the origin of that comes from Jean Lumb, and to be recognized, to find that she was so recognized and dedicated. She celebrated a 25th anniversary. She's long past, but they have a memorial fund for scholarships for Asian women. And
Amazing.
I actually went to that, and it was held in the Jean Lumb public school down
Ah,
by Fort
wow.
York. I mean, this is an amazing woman I
Yeah,
chose to
yeah,
pick as my
you
role
just happened
model.
to in Chinatown, old Chinatown. And having dim sum, you had a chance to get mentored by her. What a gift.
Yeah.
What an
And yet
absolute gift.
she wasn't like close mentoring. It was mentoring from afar. And her daughter actually will appear on the show later this year. And when I went to the anniversary of the 25th year, I said to Jean, I said to Arlene, I said, I would love to give some books to the recipients. And she said, well, there'll be 3 female recipients that will be there. Why don't you bring them and share those books with the female?
It must have been so fabulous to just have that level of intimacy with someone who clearly is a powerhouse and a trailblazer herself,
Yeah.
mentoring you. And it sounds like here
I'm
it
getting
was.
tinklies here just thinking about her. She
No,
was an
no, of
amazing
course.
woman.
And I just think it sounds to me like she did for you what you're doing for um, business owners who are trying to learn more about how they can hire well, which is allow people to be seen. It sounds like she really helped you
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
seen. So
Yeah. And
it's
that's,
amazing. So
I heard that from her children. She said, yeah, my mom had an amazing way of making you feel really valued. Uh, you know how when you go networking, sometimes there are people that are just scanning to look for the person they want to talk to. So you're just taking
right,
space, right? And
right.
they're just looking, oh, sorry, I have to go, and then they
Yes,
slip
that's
off
right.
because you're
They
really
do.
not who they're interested in.
Right,
But it
right.
didn't matter. The minute you had a conversation, you were the focus of her attention. She
Almost.
talked to you, and that was amazing. I thought, well, that's something I just learned. I want to be like Jean Lumb. I really admired what she did to make people feel valued and wanted. And in hindsight now, or in foresight, that person who shared that with me, where did it start from? Really, I am indebted to Jean Lumb for helping me be who I am, and for this concept of RevUp that I really want more and more people to do. Because if we all just treated people nice with this kind of RevUp concept, imagine what we could do for the world.
Well, look what you've done from 9, you said, to over 100 employees. So we know what's possible, Hilda. And if there are business owners out there who aren't sure, still not sure, because these are such simple things, simple concepts, but yet for some people so elusive. So if people aren't necessarily aware of how, like business owners, sometimes they feel like they only have a few skills that they do well. Are there programs that you're offering in the new year that might be able to support helping business owners to help their own employees rev up?
Well, certainly there's the HR consulting side and really helping build a strong foundation, whether that's your policies and procedures, your compliance, and recruiting. Having a process that you follow and then hiring the right people. I've got tons of statistics on why it makes sense to hire the right people. It costs like 1.5 to 2.5 times salary to replace people, depending if they're
Exactly.
an entry level, non-technical person to, the VP. Think about it. When you hire a VP, they're not going to be up and running. And it's going to take you 3 months to find them. So you're impacting on the productivity, the sales of your company when you hire wrong and you have to replace people. So I provide a lot of those foundational strategies to build. But what I feel has the greatest impact is training people. And we're talking staff and we're talking about managers. And when you help people, and I have this training program that really helps improve communication effectiveness, look at inclusivity. How do we create inclusive cultures in a practical way? Not on the bookshelf, not a strategic plan, but in a practical way. And that RevUp concept is key. And when I was creating RevUp, I looked at the idea of uniqueness. How do I tell people they're unique more than in a qualitative way? And I using an assessment tool called Fascination Advantage, and
Mm.
it really helps people understand how the world sees them. How are you impressive to the world? And that's using the languages that you're gifted with. certain things that you say and do are just natural for you. And when you speak with authenticity and naturalness, then you come across in a confident way and you create trusting relationships. So I have this fun kind of manager training, and I do it for teams and staff as well, where they learn about their fascination, they learn about the REVUP concept, and they get to know each other and be more respectful. And in that way, they can become leaders that can create motivating, uplifting opportunities for their team. So
Yeah,
that's the one I really love, is my what I call rev up your people leadership skills, not management, leadership skills. And so I've got a couple of those lined up already for the early part of the year. So I'm
and should
excited
people
about that.
contact you? Or are you offering any group training, or is it mostly one-on-one?
These are training programs that I'm doing for corporations right
I
now,
see.
and I will do them for any businesses who want. I do a free consultation, a 45-minute consultation on where are you at. I have an HR audit tool that you can assess your recruiting, your work culture, your documentation. So that's online. There's a lot of free tools on the line, a lot of webinars. During COVID, I created 30 webinars that
Wow.
focused on what do you do, to help your business. And during COVID times, people needed that. I did two a week for 5 weeks, and then one a week until the summer. And so by the end of the year, there were 30 webinars on
Wow.
mental health, on, coming back, how to be safe in the workplace, and what do you
So
do about.
people can peruse your website. There seems to be a lot of
There'll be a
content there.
wealth of knowledge there for them for sure.
And if they are looking for some free training, it's on the website. If they're looking for some consulting, maybe they have a need right now where they don't have the luxury to go through the process. They're like, I need you, I need consulting. Or they can hire you to rev up their teams, which
Yes.
sounds like a fantastic gift to a lot of employers and their teams for 2023.
It is. And another freebie I should mention is difficult conversations. I have a difficult conversation package, which has it's got a workbook to it, but people can download the free version, which will give them tips on how to start having a neutral, difficult conversation with my 5 tips and strategies. So I know
Well,
we
they,
could
they should
talk all day.
Good. I was going to say, you know what? They should just contact you. You're offering them a
I have
free
my free 45
consultation.
minute
So
consultation for sure.
yeah, I think that's a great way if you're a business owner and you don't know how to start. Well, I just love being in the interview chair with you, Hilda Gan. This has been so much fun. Thank you for the privilege of getting to know you. I learned a few things in this interview as well. So thank you for allowing me to put the shoe on the other foot here.
Well, thank you. And I did want my listeners and my viewers to learn more about me, because I usually want people to learn about my guests and a few anecdotes, but we decided that it would be nice for them to get to know you a little bit better, Hilda. So let's launch season 1. And thank you, Jackie, because you are a wonderful host. You know how to take things and reinforce what the listener audience would get out of that. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Definitely invite me back. It was fabulous to interview and fabulous to be interviewed. So
Well,
thank you
you keep
again,
growing
Hilda.
and changing. So that lone wolf to CEO was like, when I realized that you were ready to embrace that CEO mentality, Jackie, we got to have you on the show. We got to talk about this journey, because a lot of entrepreneurs have that difficulty of suddenly becoming, I'm responsible for all of these people. How do I have that CEO mentality?
Well,
Anyways,
I'm just grateful to have you in my life.
oh, I'm grateful to have you in my life. And I noticed we didn't plan this, but we both decided to wear purple today. So I guess
Yes,
it's,
I don't know if anybody's having trouble recognizing myself from Hilda, just to make sure people know who's who on this. Anyway, I'm sure your audience is going to get a lot out of this. Thank you again, Hilda.
well, thank you. And now I will take over the hosting and thank you for coming again, and to thank those who have taken the time to listen or view the podcast. And what you do is, if you like this podcast, and I'm sure, I hope you did, give it a thumbs up, write a comment, and subscribe to Rev Up Your Potential. You will learn so much in the upcoming year as I bring on guests who have such a wonderful journey, and they're going to share their tips and strategies on their expertise. So thank you and have a wonderful week. Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gan. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date on our latest episodes. For HR tips, news, and strategies, or if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.